What is up, everybody? Welcome to this MLS Cup recap here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content going up on the channel. Just started a new season of My Soccer Stories, so be sure to take a look at that as well. But today, it is all about MLS Cup, all about the LA Galaxy beating the New York Red Bulls 2-1 at Dignity Health Sports Park, finishing out an undefeated season at home, winning MLS Cup for the first time in a decade. And the conversation with this game has to start about 5 minutes before kickoff when Andres Reyes, after warmups, apparently was dealing with an illness, was scratched from the Red Bulls lineup because it's a big what if. Not to say that that changes everything and that the Red Bulls would have won, but by the time the Red Bulls got organized, right, you come in with a plan. That back three is built around Andres Reyes being the foundation. He is the player who plays in the middle of that back three. It works. Sandro Schwartz went to it because of him. Now all of a sudden, you've got to kind of regroup. You got a player who didn't expect to be featuring now playing in the middle of a back three. There are positional issues on those two goals that the Galaxy scored at the very beginning of the game. It just took a while for the Red Bulls to stabilize. Eventually, you switch. You put Sean Nealis in the middle. That works a lot better. And you start seeing the Red Bulls get back into the game. Because those last 60 minutes or so, basically starting with Sean Nealis' goal, even maybe you could say the Red Bulls had the slight edge, but that was a game that could have been, right, those 60 minutes could have been won by either team. Either team could have scored a goal. But when you're playing the Galaxy in that stadium, and you are a team that doesn't really have the ability, or at least isn't comfortable sort of bowling your way back into games by dominating possession and just creating chance after chance after chance. When you want to play direct, you want to play in transition, you want to play without the ball, giving that team a 2-goal cushion in their own building is a massive, massive mountain to climb. And the Red Bulls just weren't quite good enough to climb it. In part because they needed one more moment. They created chances. They could have had that moment. There was a really good opportunity right after Cornell made a good save that Emil Forsberg had. That's the guy you want. That's the kind of opportunity you want. That could have been the moment. There were obviously a couple other ones in there as well. But they got their one moment on the set piece. They needed another set piece goal or somebody to just capitalize on a transition opportunity, a counterattack, a break, because they're not going to sit there and break teams down. So much so that the other story here, from a Galaxy perspective, is that Greg Vanney went and changed this intentionally. At least it seemed to be very intentional, to give the Red Bulls the ball, to play more in transition, to capitalize on this weakness that the Red Bulls have. And so, in that sense, it worked. They got one goal off a set piece because the Red Bulls have been really good on set pieces in the postseason. The Galaxy are not good at defending them. And it was never going to be picture perfect because the Galaxy still aren't a great defensive team. They've probably become a good one. But their Achilles heel is set pieces. Saw the Red Bulls take advantage of that. But it was ultimately just too little too late. They didn't get going early enough in the game. That to me is the most basic, simplistic way to break this game down. The other thing I want to talk about for a moment and give credit to is the Galaxy midfield. Because obviously the big story coming into this was the fact you didn't have Ricky Puig. who to me is the second best player in this league. I think there's a case he's the most valuable. I'm not sure I would go there just because of how good the rest of this team is. But of course, it's a huge deal. And it changes the way you play because he has the freedom to go drop deep, pick the ball up. He's the guy everybody's looking for. He's the one that brings the ball up the field. There's a lot of responsibility he has that now has to go to other players. And the Cerrillo, Brugman, Delgado trio did everything they needed to and then some. Right? The two main jobs. Keep possession, keep the tempo moving. You can't let this game get bogged down and let it get kind of junky and disorganized and disjointed. That's what the Red Bulls want. They did that pretty well. And then the second part is you got to make sure that there's enough service going to those three attackers. Let them be the ones who decide the game. You just got to give them the opportunities. And you've got Brugman looking like Puig on that first patch, the first pass for the goal to Paintsel. Delgado had a couple really good passes. Cerrillo had good moments. They not only did their job, they gave you some of what Ricky Puig usually gives you. They went above and beyond what Greg Vanney could have expected. Again, they didn't have to go win the game. This is going to be about the front three. And they weren't spectacular, but in moments, Paintsel gets the first goal. He was, to me, the player of the game. Certainly the best player on the field for the first 25, 30 minutes when the Galaxy were dominating. As the game went on, Peck got better and better, and it's just so difficult to deal with one-on-one. And Jovic ends up with the game winner. Every part of this team did its job today. And McCarthy wasn't really tested all that much, but he didn't make any horrible mistakes. Could have been better going to get some of those crosses. But he was good enough. But specifically the defense, the midfield, and the front three. Everybody showed up and did their job today. And that was the big question mark, is what were you going to get from that midfield? Could they make up and at least temporarily come up with a solution and a way to create enough opportunities without Ricky Puig in there? Whether they can do that for an entire season, as he's recovering from this injury, that's a question for another day. This was a temporary solution, and Greg Vanney got it with those three guys in the midfield, so you got to give him a lot of credit. And then, finally, just looking at this and what it means for the Galaxy. Of course, so much has been talked about this idea that they've taken a backseat to LAFC since LAFC have come in the league. They haven't come close to winning a title. They brought in Chicharito. They brought in Zlatan. None of it really worked. There were moments where I remembered, I think I even came on here maybe after one of the El Traficos. Actually, maybe it wasn't an El Trafico. I don't remember. But talking about if this doesn't turn around quickly, I'm wondering if you need to go in a different direction. And I really liked the Greg Vanney hire because I think Greg Vanney's a really good coach. Clearly, I was wrong on that. He just needed time to build his team in there. And look what happened. I mean, they're fantastic to watch. They're so versatile, which is the other thing I love. Right? They won this game completely different than they won the game before, which is completely different from the way they got to the Western Conference Final when they were scoring a bazillion goals. They were able to mold and adapt, to take advantage of opponents' weaknesses, and to capitalize on their strengths. That's a really talented team. That's a versatile team. That's a really good coach. But even just looking at this in terms of, to me, the most interesting part of this is just the way that this team is built. Right? For so long, starting all the way back with Beckham, the Galaxy have been the team that goes and gets the big aging star, the big name, to be the face of the, in many cases, MLS, and at least the face of the franchise, to make them relevant from a marketing perspective. Right? Beckham, Donovan, Robbie Keane. You can go down the list. I already mentioned Zlatan Chicharito. And once you went out of that Beckham Bruce Arena era, sorry, the Donovan Bruce Arena era, obviously Beckham was part of that too. It hasn't translated to success. And there was plenty of frustration with the former upper management. You make a change there, and what does this team look like? I'm curious if you're just asking a generic soccer fan who doesn't follow the league, how many MLS players are they going to name before you get to Ricky Puig? Right? You got Messi. I mean, you got all the Barcelona guys at Inter Miami. You've got Christian Benteke. You can go down the list of all of these big names that are here now. And obviously, Ricky Puig is a big name with a big pedigree coming from Barcelona. He's a great player. But he is not the face of MLS by any stretch of the imagination. He's also super young. Right? It didn't really work out the way he wanted at Barcelona, and that's why he came here. And it's him. And it's Gabriel Peck. And it's Joseph Paintsel. And some MLS veterans. And Maya Yoshida. Experienced, really good leader. Speaks all of these languages. Great connector. Very intelligent player. A great complementary piece. Has played at a high level, Bundesliga, Premier League. But that's not who you think of when you think of MLS. John McCarthy has been a backup goalkeeper for most of his career. And your other big name is Marco Reus, who was a question mark for this game, ultimately came in, had a couple good moments. Who knows how close to 100% he was. But they certainly didn't win this game because of him. Right? This is a completely different looking team. And this team is the one that got the Galaxy back. Which I do think says something about MLS, where this league is at, and goes back to something that I love about this league, which is that you can build really good teams in so many different ways. And so many teams are spending money, but it looks differently. It looks different, right? This is closer to LAFC, but it also still has some of that Galaxy. You bring in Marco Reus. It has some of that Galaxy flair. But it's not Inter Miami. It's not driven by the academy, like an FC Dallas or a Philadelphia Union. It's not kind of this collection of great MLS players and this big name from Europe and Cucho Hernandez, again, on the ascendancy, closer to the kind of team that the Galaxy have built. But you also bring Diego Rossi back for that Columbus Crew team. Right? The FC Cincinnati is, at least for this moment, we'll see what happens down the line, but built around a guy who was previously in MLS, in Lucho Acosta. The Galaxy spent big. They completely went and rebuilt the winger position and got two really, really good ones in Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsel. But Paintsel comes from a notable European team, but not one that anybody is typically paying close attention to. It's not like he was at the top of everybody's radar of just a generic soccer fan who follows all of these different leagues the way I do. It's another way to build a team. And it's kind of staying in line with the Galaxy DNA to a certain extent, but also evolving with the league. Because the way the Galaxy were doing things was not working. So you get rid of guys like Douglas Costa, and you bring in Paintsel and Peck. You go make sure you've got your flashy LA superstar in Ricky Puig. And here you are as deserving MLS Cup champions. Are they the best team in the league? No. Defensively, they've got some issues. I absolutely love that attack, so I am kind of biased. And I think they might be a little bit better than people are giving them credit for. And I have said consistently throughout the season, you give me one LA team that's going to get this done, it is the Galaxy, and I was proven right in that. They were built to do this in a way LAFC were not, but that's a conversation for another day. But you look at the body of work in the postseason, these last two games were not particularly impressive. It looked like they might have absolutely destroyed the Red Bulls, but they didn't get the third goal. They let up a goal on a set piece to give the Red Bulls confidence to get them back in the game early, and it was very even and tight from there on out. They weren't blowing people away from start to finish. But that's ultimately why I believed in this team. And I have talked about this after El Tráfico's before. They can blow you away. They kept a clean sheet when they needed to. And this was a combination of they got just enough from everybody. Everybody contributed. They had a couple really good moments to give themselves a lead, give themselves the ability to kind of play the game the way they want, to put the Red Bulls in some uncomfortable positions. That versatility, having a plan B, having a plan C, is so important in knockout tournaments. Almost every champion has that ability. Galaxy are no different. It's a big reason why they are your MLS Cup champions for 2024. That's all I've got. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.